course not. Like Ellis said during our first conversation, some details are forever elusive. In the end, you'll see how the plot against George Washington was planned. You'll see how it was foiled. And most important, when it came to Washington himself, you'll see how easily history could have turned out differently. Brad Meltzer. Notes on the text. When quoting directly from 18th century written sources, we've standardized the original spelling, capitalization, and punctuation to make the language more accessible to modern readers. The wording itself is not changed, unless otherwise indicated in the text or endnotes. Also, many chapters begin with a heading that indicates the location, using the familiar city-state construction. The states were still colonies during most of the time period we cover, but because the colony and state names are the same in every case, we've opted to use the modern format. We must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly, we shall all hang separately. Attributed to Benjamin Franklin, July 4th, 1776. Prologue. New York, New York, April 1776. The trap is set. It's quiet on this night. Moonlight shines over a clearing in a dense wood. The silence is broken by the drumbeat of hooves in the distance, growing steadily louder. Soon several uniformed men on horseback emerge from the blackness. The party halts not far from a large wooden manor house that sits at the clearing's edge. A few of the riders dismount and prime their muskets, standing guard. They scan the clearing, apparently thinking all is safe. They're wrong. A moment later, another rider steps down from his horse. He's taller than the rest and wears a long officer's coat. His name is George Washington, the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. There is a traitorous plan against him. He has no idea it's coming. For the last 10 months, since the day he was appointed to his command, Washington has had a nearly impossible task: to organize a scattered mess of backwoods militias and untrained volunteers into a functioning national army. And not just any army. This small, inexperienced, poorly equipped group of soldiers needs to stand up to what is probably the biggest and most powerful military force in the world. By any normal measure, they don't stand a chance. And Washington knows this, just as he knows that with every decision he makes, thousands of young soldiers' lives could be lost. Tonight, even more is at risk. Washington has just arrived in the western woods of Manhattan, about 2 miles north of New York City's bustling commercial district, which covers the island's southern tip. He's just finished a week-long journey from Boston, and he's here now to fortify the city against the first major British offensive of the war. What he's facing is terrifying. Sometime in the next few weeks or months, a massive fleet of the vaunted British Navy will swarm into New York Harbor. Hundreds of ships and tens of thousands of soldiers prepared to invade the city. They're coming. It's just a question of when. The colonies have placed all their hope and trust in him. It is up to this one man, George Washington, to lead the small Continental Army and withstand the massive attack. Tonight, among the soldiers accompanying Washington, a few were dressed differently from the rest, in short blue and white coats with brass buttons. They're known as the Life Guards, an elite group of specially trained soldiers handpicked to serve as Washington's bodyguards. He takes particular pride in these men, whom he trusts above all others. In the faint moonlight, Washington walks slowly toward the nearby manor house that will serve as his lodging for the next few critical weeks before the British attack. Yet what George Washington doesn't know is that here in Manhattan, the coming battle isn't the only thing he should fear. There are other enemies waiting for him, enemies more dangerous than even the British Army. At this exact moment, 3 miles away due south